Hello, everyone, and welcome to FTT Chats, where we sit down with some of the great and the good of FinTech for a bit of a chat. So joining me today is Elliott Lim of Mambu. How are you?
Very well, Liz. Thank you for having me.
Very, very good. I have a set of questions for you for our Q&A, but I missed off a question I've been asking everyone during these chats to give a bit of an intro. So I hope it's not too hard. It's tell us who you are and what do you do?
I hope it's not too hard. My name is Elliott Lim. I'm the Chief Customer Officer at Mambu. My career spanning over 20 years. I've worked in several banks. I've worked for several fintechs, also run a consultancy, which has put me in a position where at Mambu, I'm basically responsible for all customer interactions from initial prospecting all the way through customer sales, onboarding, delivery, and everything in between, just to make sure our customers are happy and that we're successful with them.
Oh, cool. So, I mean, Mambu seems to be kind of the core banking solution of choice for a lot of digital first banks recently. Do you think that's true? And why do you think that is?
Yeah, I do think it's true. And I think there's several reasons. I think we're a good fit, not just technically and business aligned. So we sort of understand we come from the cloud. We are a pure SaaS platform for banking. But it's more than that. We align to the growth models, obviously, as a pure SaaS pricing model and those things behind it. I think we're an excellent fit as well. We have sort of the DNA of a startup, a growth engine, and we know what it means to build banking. We have a lot of experience, say, from the technology business. But the culture, really, I do think when you get to know our customers and you get to interact like I do, you can feel it's beyond a partnership, beyond the classic vendor relationship. It really is something a lot deeper. And I would just say it's not just the digital banks. We are seeing that as things change, our customer base has changed from just being the small digital startups to the scale-ups, getting bigger, the likes of the N26s, to the Oak Norths, and then we move more into sort of the bigger banks who are doing speedboats, their own spin-offs, and we're seeing a real cultural change as we see that adopted in the bigger banks where they're also changing their culture, not just their business model.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much, sort of it's digital first everywhere, no matter
Absolutely
when you started. So my next question, I'm a big fan of seemingly simple questions and seeing how people answer them. I mean, I often tell people I've been in FinTech for about 25 years. So I really wanted to know your answer. How would you define the term FinTech?
Oh, good one. Changing. I'd say definitely changing. It used to be simple. It was something very simple where you were providing technology for a banking service. Back in my career, I ran innovation labs in some banks, and we brought fintechs in, and it either worked or it didn't. And it was very straightforward. They provided technology that allowed us to change banking. That has changed. We had fintech, then became fintech and regtech, fintech and regtech and paytech, and blah 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 blah. I think there's a huge change in all of the markets at the moment, and I think you see a convergence across not just those but across multiple areas. And I think to answer the question, what is fintech now and what will it be? We don't know what a bank will be in 5 or 10 years. We don't know what finance will look like, and we don't know what tech will look like. So I think it's a label we can put onto pretty much anything where a bank is involved and a technology provider is there to try and change that experience or performance.
Interesting. Good. It was pretty cool. So I'm going to stick with some of the definition questions. So, what exactly is composable banking then?
Great. Yeah. So this is our favorite subject at Mambu. It's basically composing the bank you want to be. So this is around an architectural approach, a business approach. It goes beyond best of breed and best of suite. It comes to best in time and best fit. So we don't believe you should be locked into a vendor for 10, 15 years. We don't believe you should have a one size fits all. We should believe you should take an ecosystem, build it almost like Lego blocks to build and compose the bank that is right for you, but not just right for now, but right for this unpredictable future. You can't have you can't build the bank you want today and be sure it's going to be exactly the bank you want in 2 years, 5 years. With the times we're living at the moment, we're seeing it even more so. Things are changing socially, economically, and also how banks play their part. It's really about composing exactly where you want to be, when you want to be, building those deep relationships, and making sure that your business grows in line with your entire ecosystem, shared honestly from strategy through to value outcome.
I mean, that really sort of leads into the next question about, how core banking transformations fit into our new world of openness and platformification and open finance? Like how does that fit into the new ecosystem?
I think very nicely. I think the open banking, the open financing, everything else are some of the levers that are being pulled to almost get away from what we used to call transformations.
Mm-hmm.
As I say, I used to be CIO in a couple of banks, and a transformation was a 2 to 5 year project costing tens, if not hundreds of millions, where you would try and, it's like open heart surgery. Why would you do it if you had the option not to do it?
Mm-hmm.
I think we're almost, I'll be proved wrong, and again, don't want to predict the future. I think we're almost at the last tenure of big bank transformations.
Okay.
I think we're seeing that agility is important. Making sure we can change things is important. People are realizing this unknown future. People are seeing, since 2008 onwards, we've gone through probably 4 or 5 generations of banking, which is probably more than we went through in the previous 50 years. Mm-hmm. Certainly from a technology point of view and process point of view. So I think getting those long lock-ins, those long times to go live, long product launch cycles, we've got to get away from them. So open banking, everything else brings opportunity. It really takes us to that best fit. And I honestly, and we believe it really is the composable architecture type approach that really allows you your transformation to be your last transformation, as in big bang transformation, but you have an ongoing transformation as your business evolves in line with your technology and your processes.
I agree with you completely. I think financial services has just gone through so much change over the past decade compared to the decades before. I mean, either my own experience, like attitude to cloud environments, which your organization works a lot with. How did you view that shift in mindset with banks with cloud over the past 10 years? Where did you see attitudes start to change, and why?
I think they've been constantly changing. I think it's been the one word I will use is trust. I think attitudes were very much with all technologies. There's always a new buzzword, a new thing that comes along that's going to be the next great thing. I think cloud, SaaS, however you want to look at it, was was perceived certainly by the bigger banks and certainly by the industry in general as, okay, this is a new thing. It's originally it was a managed service. It's a hosting mechanism. It's a different way of doing things, but it's evolved as in some of the smaller new market entrants, the pure digitals, started realizing this was a way to get pure business agility, to try and drive something new, to take over, give better customer service, give things at a lower cost, reduce risk. And they didn't perceive the technical risk in the same way as the bigger players, because they didn't have the governance. But you could say they had the ignorance not to particularly want to know about it, because once you're regulated, you're in a very different place. Which I think interestingly is why probably the first sort of phase of the challenger neobanks almost became banks overnight. Mm-hmm. They had the technology, but then they felt the legislative regulatory problems. So I think that took a while and was a bit of a blip, but I think then people have now come onto the whole model of, hey, SaaS and clouds gives you agility. Mm-hmm. Hey, SaaS and cloud gives you the ability to implement faster. It gives you the ability to move your business in the direction you want it to go. And look, it aligns your risk model, your cost base to your revenue base. And I think what I see now, and I see more and more, is that complete opposite. So it was that we perceived a technology risk, which is now no longer perceived. Mm-hmm. There's still some perception, but as you move through the markets, move around the geographies, it's pretty much dead. But what you see actually is the biggest risk people see is the business risk factor. And the biggest risk is not moving to a SaaS or cloud environment, because you don't have that agility and you can't build your business in the way that the market demands it and your customers demand it. So I think that's the biggest thing, moving from perceived technology risk to a perceived business risk of not executing.
It's always that business problem that's going to push the technology. I agree.
Exactly.
So I'm moving a little bit, maybe slightly away from technology a bit. But when I put together questions for companies, I tend to nose about on their blog pages a bit to see, what type of messaging they find important. And there are quite a lot of blogs about diversity and inclusion in the company. So I really wanted to hear it from your own words. Why is that important for a cloud-based core banking technology provider? Why is diversity inclusion important?
I mean, I think my first sort of counter argument would be take away the industry, the type of business or anything. Why would it not be important? Mm-hmm. I think doing things around diversity and inclusion, be it gender, and everybody publishes their gender matrix, and we're very healthy across the board, and we're very proud of that. But you also need to look at it from a age profile, you need to look at it from sexuality, you need to look at it from every point of view. And honestly, one I've had a bit of a personal bugbear with for a few years. I actually think educational diversity is also an interesting point we don't generally look at. People bring different ideas from different places, and the biggest mistake you can make in any leadership role in any business is to assume you know everything and to stop listening to the people. And if I listen to somebody who went to the same school as me, studied the same thing as me, and has the same background, they're probably going to have similar ideas. I would much rather spend time with 20 people I have nothing in common with. And you get to that, it's almost like the Medici effect. The concept that if you put 5 doctors in one room, and in the other room you put a doctor, a musician, a postman, and whatever, they will come up with a cure for cancer first, based on the fact of diversity principles and the fact you will have a more shared knowledge and a different way of approaching the same problem. So for business success and for humanity success, honestly, I think diversity is a huge thing everybody should look more seriously at.
Yeah, excellent. No, I agree as well. I agree with everything you're saying.
Great, we should do this more often.
So my final question is, I tend to try and avoid questions that date an interview, but I really think it's hard to ignore the global pandemic that everyone's going through right at the moment with COVID-19. This is maybe a personal opinion, bring out your crystal ball. How much of an impact, how long are we going to feel the effects of what's going on right now in FinTech?
Well, as we're talking again, not wanting to date it, I think everybody's now starting to relax a bit and think things are going to go back to normal because some things are being lifted around the world. Not quite so confident. I think things are never going to be quite the same as they were again. Not necessarily a bad thing. I think from look at it from two sides. I think look at it from a wider position. We probably become a lot more aware of what's going on around us and don't take things for granted quite so much. And also the fact that we know this could happen once, it could happen again, be it COVID-19, be it whatever comes along next. I think we have to be more mentally, organizationally, socially prepared for that sort of thing. Bring it into sort of the FinTech model. I think it drives and actually accelerates that move towards the cloud stroke SaaS model, because I can give you some real world experiences where we were in the middle of delivery implementations, as all vendors are when this all kicked off. None of them have slowed down because it's all remote. We don't need people on site. Nothing stopped. We're getting things to market. There have been changes to regulation around the world. You need to give holidays to small lending companies need to give holidays to microloans. There needs to be changes in payment schedules. There needs to be all those sort of things. We can build that, deliver it, test it, and have it on site with our clients within a matter of hours or days, rather than having to wait until this is all over, roll out a patch, and insist on sort of a modular way. So I think as we're going to have to, again, it becomes increasingly an unknown future, the way we're sort of sitting at the moment, building sort of ecosystems, technology and processes that allow for that. It has to be reflected on by every single organization as they go back into their office and say, what about when this happens the next time? What position do we want to be in, and what does it need to look like? So I think there's opportunities, but I don't want to see opportunity in a bad time. I think it's an opportunity for us culturally, to learn to do things differently and be better prepared in all aspects of life, not just in FinTech and business.
I agree as well.